Hello and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you are watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. U.S. Presidential envoy Steve Witkoff will lead a delegation to Egypt to join Gaza ceasefire and hostage talks, according to Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati. As Qatar's Prime Minister and Turkish delegates will also be participating in the third day of negotiation on the indirect talks between Hamas and Israel representatives. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg has claimed that she was kidnapped and tortured by Israeli forces after being detained with 478 others from the Global Smooth Flotilla, which attempted to deliver aid to Gaza, according to statements made at a press conference. Meanwhile, according to UN reports, Israeli shelling in Gaza continues despite U.S. calls for pause during ongoing ceasefire negotiations in Qatar. Russian President Vladimir Putin has claimed on his 73rd birthday that Russian forces have captured nearly 5,000 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory in 2025, while a top Russian commander said troops are advancing in all directions. However, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has dismissed the claims and pointed to gains in Donetsk. 3 people were killed and 1 injured in a Ukrainian missile strike on Maslova Pristan in Russia's Belgorod region. Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov, with rescue teams working to clear rubble that may still have been trapped inside. The attack has damaged a sports center near the Ukraine border, and Ukraine has not commented on this incident yet. U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to invoke the Insurrection Act to deploy military forces in Democratic-led cities has escalated tensions, with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker accusing him of using troops as a political weapon. Legal battles have emerged over National Guard deployments, and a federal judge temporarily blocked the troop presence. Turkey will shift to increasing domestic gas production and U.S. LNG imports to cover over half of its gas needs by 2028, which threatens to shrink Russia and Iran's one of last major energy market. This comes as U.S. President Donald Trump pressures Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on its energy imports. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has stated that the UK will not pursue a visa deal with India during his 2-day visit to India starting today, focusing instead on maximizing the new free trade agreement signed on July and set to take effect next year, according to media reports. Taiwan has reappointed former Economy Minister Lin Hsien as its envoy to this year's APEC summit in South Korea, marking his 2nd consecutive year representing Taiwan in the key international forum. Lin, who has also led Taiwan's delegation back in 2005, will attend under the name Chinese Taipei due to China's political objections. Now we start with North America. A federal judge has temporarily blocked U.S. President Donald Trump's administration from deploying National Guard troops to Portland, Oregon, escalating a growing legal clash over the president's authority to send troops into Democratic-led cities without state approval. The ruling by U.S. District Judge Karen Immergut came after the administration attempted to reassign troops from Texas and California to Portland just days after the same court rejected Trump's order to federalize Oregon's own National Guard. Oregon and California filed suits against the move, arguing it has violated state sovereignty. Judge Immergut agreed, saying there was no evidence that the protests in Portland warranted federalized forces. The temporary restraining order will remain in place until at least October 19th. In a parallel case, Illinois and the city of Chicago have also sued to block planned deployment of National Guard troops. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker branded the move Trump's invasion, warning it would incite protests. The Trump administration insists the president has the legal right to call up the Guard to curb what he describes as out-of-control crime and to protect federal personnel. White House officials say they will appeal against the rulings. The court decisions are the latest in a series of legal setbacks over Trump's use of the National Guard in U.S. cities. Faced with resistance from states and federal courts, Trump has warned he may invoke the Insurrection Act, a seldom used law permitting U.S. military deployments inside of the country. Now we move on. According to a memo circulated by the White House, furloughed workers might not be eligible for back pay after the government shutdown. U.S. President Donald Trump has said that while the administration has a keen interest in taking care of its employees, there are some people that do not deserve to be taken care of. Now, we are joined by Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, what more can you tell us about this evolving situation in U.S.?
Anyway, a Republican seeks a small government, and it is true. But in case of the Trump administration, the Trump administration pushing this policy very strongly, I think. And so that's why many workers need to leave from work. But the problem is work itself is, there are some certain levels of work itself need to continue. So that's why the shortage of the worker is a problem. And the shortage of the budget is also a problem because there is a conflict in the U.S. Parliament. So that's why the Trump administration is facing how to deal with the situation, I think.
Thank you very much, Dr. Satoru, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now we stay in North America. According to a memo circulated by the White House, furloughed workers might not be eligible for back pay after the government shutdown. U.S. President Donald Trump has said that while the administration has a keen interest in taking care of its employees, there are some people that do not deserve to be taken care of. A memo appears to contravene the 2019 Government Employee Fair Treatment Act signed by President Trump during his first term after a partial shutdown that stretched over 35 days. Speaker Mike Johnson, who voted for the 2019 law guaranteeing back pay, has said that there will be a lot of discussion about the memo and that he hopes the furloughed workers will receive back pay. Meanwhile, according to the Federal Aviation Administration, as the U.S. government shutdown reaches its 7th day, air traffic control staffing issues are delaying flights at several U.S. airports, including Denver, Newark, and Las Vegas. Some 13,000 air traffic controllers and about 50,000 Transportation Security Administration officers must still turn up for work during the government shutdown, but they are not being paid. Controllers are set to receive a partial paycheck on October 14th for work performed before the shutdown. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Doctor, for staying with us. Now, how might this White House's memo stating that furloughed workers may not be eligible for back pay conflict with the previous Trump administration's 1.0's the memo that has gone ahead, the 2019 Government Employee Fair Treatment Act, and what potential legal challenges could arise from this decision?
Anyway, currently the government do not have the money, so that is a reality, I think. So that's why they do not want to pay because there is no money. That is the current situation the U.S. government is facing because of the budget plan is not going through in the Senate. That is one reason. And another reason is, of course, anyway, U.S. Want to relocate their money and other resources to the a different policy, which is, of course, to compete with China, or how to rise in the military industry, or other things, many things they need to do. So compared with the Biden's age, they need to relocate a huge budget. So under such kind of situation, United States need to save the money in the other area, and there is no money in this case. So that is the reason they try to save the money, and there is no money to pay for this purpose. That is the situation U.S. government is facing, I think.
And are there any potential legal challenges that could arise from this decision?
Of course it will, I think. So even if there's no money and there's a reason which is no money, of course these workers have the right to receive the money. So that's why there's a high possibility that it will be in the court. And so in the long run, anyway, the US government need to pay. That will happen. But just now they do not have the money.
And what are the political implications of President Trump's statement that some employees do not deserve to be taken care of?
It rely on their work, and they need to prove both sides in this case, and the government side need to prove this worker is not eligible, but the worker side need to prove they are eligible. That is fighting the court in the near future. But the other reason U.S. government do not want to pay is indeed lacking the money is a matter for the U.S. government, I guess.
And how could this ongoing government shutdown and its impact on essential workers, like air traffic controllers and TSA officials, affect public perception of federal government's handling of labor rights?
Anyway, in the near future, for the essential workers, the United States government will pay, I think. But because this is just a sign, this is not a formal decision, and the essential worker is anyway needed, and the long-term contract is needed. So in this case, they try to keep this essential worker. But essential workers range. Definition of the essential worker is changeable, so that's why the bill from the Trump administration, definition of the illegal worker rely on how much money they can use.
With that, I would like to thank Dr. Satoru Nagao for joining us and sharing that insight throughout both our news on North America. Thank you very much. Now we move on. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is on a 2-day visit to India. He has described this visit as the biggest trade mission ever sent to India, while talking at a business event in Mumbai. Keir Starmer was joined by over 100 leaders from the business, culture, and university sectors in an effort to promote a recently signed trade deal. Talks on the trade pact were concluded in May after 3 years of stop-start negotiations, with both sides hasting efforts to clinch a deal in the shadow of turmoil sparked by U.S. President Donald Trump. Let's listen into what he has said.
This is the biggest trade mission that the United Kingdom has ever sent to India. Obviously, this is a two-parter, if you like. We had Prime Minister Modi over to the United Kingdom earlier this year to sign the FTA, the free trade agreement that we agreed, and today is the return leg of that, if you like. That FTA is really important for us. It's the biggest deal that we've struck since we left the EU, and I think it's the biggest deal that India has ever struck, so hugely important.
Now, earlier, while departing from the Heathrow Airport in London, Prime Minister Keir Starmer welcomed the massive business delegation on the flight to Mumbai and invited them to explore and take advantage of all the opportunities India has to offer to the United Kingdom in the free trade agreement. Starmer is scheduled to hold bilateral talks with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday to ratify the deal and bring it into effect by next year. Listen into what he has announced from the cockpit of the flight.
This is the Prime Minister. I'm in the cockpit and a very warm welcome to BA Flight 9100 to Mumbai. It's really fantastic to have you all on board. This is the biggest trade mission to India that the UK has ever sent. So I'm much looking forward to working with you as we explore all of the opportunities and take full advantage of the opportunities in our new free trade agreement. So safe flight, everybody. Enjoy the flight, and I'll give you further information once I've taken off. Thank you.
Excellent. Fantastic. A natural.
Now, for this discussion, we are joined by former Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar. He's a former Indian diplomat, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now, what are the key objectives for British Prime Minister and his trade mission to India?
Yes, thank you very much for having me on the show. You're very right. You know what the Prime Minister said, it is the largest business delegation that they're bringing to India. I think let's step back a little bit. When the referendum for Brexit took place in 2016 and when the Brexit finally came into position in 2020. Ever since that time, because the United Kingdom knew that it was getting out of the European Union, so it wanted to have trade agreements, strengthen trade relations with the major powers. I remember even at that time in 2016, just after that, Mr. Trump came to power in 2017 January, and he was telling the United Kingdom that USA will be the first country with whom they will sign an FTA. But we see that has not happened, and I think this is one of the first FTAs that the United Kingdom has signed with any country, and India is a major market, major economy. It's the fourth largest economy in the world. And this FTA is a very ambitious, the free trade agreement is a very ambitious agreement. It has 26 chapters and it covers everything under the sun. It's not only trade, it's not only goods, investments, services, intellectual property rights, there is agriculture, there is also government procurement. These are issues that India has been very hesitant in including in our trade agreements in the past. It also has labor, it also has environment. So it's a very comprehensive agreement. And I think it's, today we see that the bilateral trade between India and the United Kingdom is in the range of about 43 billion pounds sterling or $56 billion. And then we hope to increase this to about twice by 2030, so about more than $110 billion by 2030. So these are ambitious targets, but since there have been such huge cuts, about 99.1% of goods going to the United Kingdom from India will be duty-free, and about 90% of the goods coming from the United Kingdom to India will also be duty-free. So I think there are huge opportunities. In any case, in the $56 billion, the balance of trade is in India's favor, which is a very rare occurrence because there are not very many countries. I think the United States might be another country, significant country with whom we have a positive balance of trade, but United Kingdom is another one. So we can expect our exports to grow, and particularly the sort of weaponization of tariffs and the weaponization of market access that we are seeing from the United States. I think this agreement comes as a huge source of satisfaction that Indian exports will be able to get new markets where we'll be able to significantly enhance our exports.
And Ambassador Sajanhar, since you've also mentioned the U.S., can you give us a little bit more context on how did this U.S. tariff disputes influence the finalization of UK-India trade deal?
Let me put it this way. I don't think it has had any direct impact as such because, as you mentioned in your introductory comments yourself, Asuma, that the discussions on this trade deal have been going on since 2022, when Mr. Boris Johnson, he came to India, and at that time he led the biggest delegation ever to have gone out of the United Kingdom, and he brought that to India. But the tariffs on problem between India and the United States has really cropped up only over the last 3-4 months, and basically it is discussions started. India was one of the first countries to launch these negotiations when our Prime Minister visited the United States in February of this year. And then negotiations started in March of 2025. And by the end of June, beginning of July, everything was ready. It was a very good agreement, good balanced agreement. That is what I understand. And it went to the table of Mr. Trump, but Mr. Trump was not happy. He was not satisfied because he had seen that all the other countries, whether it is the European Union or it is Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, all of them had bowed down to the demands of the United States, and United States had got uh, by and large duty-free access to their markets while still maintaining tariffs of 15 or 20% on imports from those countries. So he thought that he wanted much greater access into India. But India has its own red lines, and we were not able to really go beyond those red lines, whether it is in the area of dairy, or it is in the area of some agricultural items, or it is in the area of genetically modified products in the area of agriculture. So that was one problem. So he imposed 25% tariffs on India, which was pretty high as compared to the others. And then in early August, he imposed a further 25% on the basis of that India was importing oil from Russia, while we see that there are many other countries. For instance, China imports much larger quantities of oil from Russia than India does. Turkey is a very significant importer of oil and LNG from Russia. The European countries are very significant importers of LNG from Russia. So he has not acted against any of those, but he imposed a 25% additional tariff on India. And it is suspected that since India did not agree that Mr. Trump had any role to play in the cessation of hostilities between India and Pakistan after the 4-day conflict in May of 2025. So he took it very personally. He was offended. He felt very peeved on this, and it was more as a result of his unhappiness and annoyance with India that he used this pretext, which in any case is not an economic reason, it's a geopolitical reason. So we are now having negotiations with the United States, and we are quite hopeful that we
Yes.
will be able to get a deal quite soon with them.
Yes, and Ambassador Sajanhar, I would like to also question about the history, the colonial history with the UK. How might the presence of over 100 business, culture, education leaders on this trade mission influence perceptions of Britain's intention with its modern relationship with India, particularly in terms of balancing historical grievances with future cooperation?
I think both the countries are really, we've had, of course, a troubled colonial past, but after 1947, when India became independent, India decided that it will have a forward-looking approach to our relationship with the United Kingdom. Of course, if there are any problems like we have today, there are some sticking issues like the Khalistani elements who are active in the United Kingdom, and they create problems for the Indian diaspora, and they also create problems for India from there. They come to India in Punjab and try to foment trouble. There are also a number of absconders, financial absconders, like Nirav Modi, like Vijay Mallya, like Lalit Modi. They have taken refuge in the United Kingdom, and India would like to get them back. So there are issues between the two countries, definitely. But we are looking at, and these issues I'm sure are going to be discussed when Prime Minister Keir Starmer is in Mumbai, and when the meetings take place tomorrow. But we are looking at what is it that this relationship can offer to both the countries. What are the win-win propositions? And I think in that context, the free trade agreement that has been signed and which will become applicable next year, I think that is a very important element. There are areas of education, there are areas of health, there are two big prominent UK universities which are establishing their campuses in New Delhi. We have about 170,000 students who go to the United Kingdom. In the area of health also, I'm sure your viewers would recall that the Indian company Serum Institute of India had collaborated with AstraZeneca of Oxford, and they had come up with the Covishield vaccine, which was supplied all around the world. It was of benefit not only to India but to the about more than 100 countries to which India supplied those vaccines. Also, we have a huge number of Indian doctors, Indian nurses who are working under the British National Health System. The area of defense, the area of science, technology, research, innovation. These are all areas in
Yes,
which both the countries can work together to mutual
yes.
benefit and advantage. And I am sure that these are issues that are going to be discussed when both the leaders meet in Mumbai tomorrow.
And lastly, Ambassador Sujan Har, why has Prime Minister Keir Starmer ruled out including a visa deal in this trade agreement with India?
I think we already have what is called a mobility and migration partnership, where we are, talking about that there is a huge demographic disadvantage in large number of countries of the West. India has a demographic dividend. India has young people, and they are well trained, they are well educated, and they can provide the workforce globally. And so also, I think, as far as the United Kingdom is concerned. So I'm sure there are going to be discussions, but maybe it is felt that it is too early to think of a comprehensive visa agreement, so to say. So it will continue to be on a case by case basis. Whatever talent, whatever skills are required by the US industry, by the US business, they will continue to go from India to the UK, and then they will take it forward on such terms and conditions that are agreed upon between the two sides.
With that, I would like to thank Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar for joining us and sharing that insight throughout this news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. Iris Stalzer, the newly elected mayor of the town in western Germany, is in critical condition after a stabbing attack outside her home. Stalzer was found with life-threatening injuries in the Ruhr city of Herdecke and has been airlifted to the hospital. The police has said that her life remains in danger. Police have also stated that there is no indication that the attack was politically motivated and that there may be a family connection. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has called the incident a heinous crime. In a post on X, Merz has said that he hopes for the mayor's full recovery. Stalzer, standing for the center-left Social Democratic Party, was elected mayor of Herdecke in a runoff vote on September 28. She's due to take office in November. At least 25 people have been killed and dozens more injured after a motorized paraglider dropped bombs on a crowd protesting Myanmar's military government. The attack took place during a candlelight vigil in Chong-U Township, where around 100 people had gathered for the Tadingyut festival. Witnesses say 2 bombs were dropped, leaving many bodies unrecognizable. Local reports described children among the dead and has said that the explosions lasted about 7 minutes. The People's Defense Force, which is a resistant group, had tried to end the event early after receiving warnings of an airborne attack. Protesters had called for the release of political prisoners, including democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Amnesty International has condemned the strikes, calling it part of a disturbing trend of violence against civilians since the 2021 coup. The United Nations says 40% of the population now requires humanitarian aid. Now, this is all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from around the world.